Millionaire gets home early, sees wife, abusing black maid's daughter. What he does shocks. All rain-slicked streets reflected the glow of Daniel Carter's black sedan as it rolled up to his quiet suburban driveway far earlier than anyone expected. Inside the house, no music played, no laughter echoed, only an unnatural stillness that pricked at his instincts. He pushed the front door open, and the faint aroma of burnt toast met him. From somewhere deeper inside came muffled voices, clipped and sharp. Daniel paused, his briefcase still in hand, eyes narrowing. This was not the home he left that morning. At the edge of the kitchen doorway, 8-year-old Maya stood frozen, one hand pressed to her chest as if to steady her breathing. Her wide eyes darted toward him, then back to the hallway where the voices grew harsher. She looked frightened, but not of him. Just beyond her, Rosa Martinez balanced a silver tray whose cups rattled against the saucers. Her knuckles were white around the handles. Daniel caught her gaze, pleading, warning, something he could not yet decipher. A door slammed somewhere in the back. Lexi's voice sliced through the silence, low, commanding, full of disdain. Daniel took a step forward, heart pounding. Then, through the walls, a sentence drifted toward him. Lexi's words, cold and deliberate. Children like her should know their place. The remark rooted Daniel to the spot, and for the first time that day, he felt a chill crawl up his spine. Sunlight spilled through the kitchen's tall windows the morning after Daniel's return, catching on the streaks of water Rosa had wiped from the marble counters. Every movement she made was deliberate and silent, as if sound itself could be punished. She had learned this rhythm over 3 long years, a rhythm that kept her and Maya safe enough to survive another day inside the Carter house. Rosa Martinez had not always moved like a shadow. In Veracruz, she had been known for her bold laugh and for balancing trays of seafood at her family's small cafe. When the hurricanes came and the cafe collapsed under debt, she gathered her savings and crossed the border legally on a work visa. She believed she was heading toward freedom. Instead, she found herself locked into dependence on one address, one employer, one unpredictable woman whose smiles never reached her eyes. Maya's world glimmered with privilege but carried the weight of invisible bars. The 8-year-old slept in a pink room lined with books she was not allowed to touch unless Lexi approved the titles. She drew pictures of open fields and running dogs, images she had never experienced firsthand. In whispered Spanish, Rosa promised her little girl that one day they would go outside together without fear. But even small hopes felt dangerous inside this house. Lexi Hale had entered Daniel's life with the composure of a society debutante and the ambition of a boardroom tactician. In the early months of their marriage, she hosted fundraisers and charity luncheons. Over time, her focus shifted inward, shaping the household into a stage for her authority. She posted lists of rules on the refrigerator, precise meal times, banned foods, silence in the hallways after dusk. Guests saw polished hospitality. Rosa and Maya saw the sharp edge beneath. The maid's uniform became Rosa's armor. She learned to step between her daughter and Lexi's cutting remarks with a practiced smile. Lexi's voice carried a venom that always landed soft enough to escape outsiders' notice, but hard enough to bruise a child's sense of self. When Rosa thought about quitting, she remembered the threats. You will never work in this city again, and immigration can review your paperwork anytime. Her visa renewal hung in the balance. Without references, without savings, she would be stranded. Meanwhile, Daniel Carter circled the globe in executive jets, building a $500 million conglomerate and earning headlines for ethical leadership. His home became a symbol of his success, but it was a place he mostly visited, not inhabited. Lexi's reports about the household were always composed. Maya is thriving. Rosa is competent. Everything runs smoothly. He had no reason to doubt his wife's words. Maya clung to Rosa in the rare moments of privacy they shared. She whispered about school lunches she had been forbidden to attend because Lexi feared bad influences. She described how Lexi corrected her posture with a fingernail pressed into her shoulder. These were small injuries, invisible to outsiders, yet they shaped her every movement. Rosa wanted to complain to Daniel, but remembered the icy look Lexi gave her whenever she hinted at trouble. Week by week, Rosa's hope of escape thinned. The bank account she had opened under her own name never grew enough for a deposit on an apartment. Legal aid clinics demanded documentation she did not have. When a friend from church offered her a live-in job across town, Lexi intercepted the voicemail and made it clear that any attempt to leave would end badly. Rosa did not test the warning. On the surface, Daniel's mansion sparkled like an advertisement for success. Inside, tension thickened like humidity before a storm. Rosa wiped counters, Maya rehearsed politeness, and Lexi rehearsed dominance. Daniel remained absent, assuming his wife was protecting their child's best interests. He believed he had built a sanctuary. He had no idea it had become a cage. Each evening, Rosa stared at the framed portrait of Daniel and Lexi smiling at a gala. She wondered whether the man in the tuxedo would even recognize what had grown behind his own doors. How much did he truly know? How much would he believe if she tried to speak? These questions pressed against Rosa's ribs as she tucked Maya into bed that night. She brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead and whispered a lullaby in Spanish, the same one her mother had sung to her. The melody trembled, weighed down by secrets she could not reveal. Across town, Daniel signed contracts and shook hands, his mind drifting to the quiet house where his family waited. He thought of Maya's last birthday, of Lexi's perfect party, of Rosa standing in the corner holding a tray of cupcakes. He never noticed the tear tracks on the child's face or the tremor in the maid's hands. The echo of Lexi's remark, "Children like her should know their place," still pulsed in his ears. He had dismissed it as stress or a misunderstanding, but now, as memories assembled in his mind, he began to feel the edges of a truth he had ignored. The kitchen clock ticked louder than usual as Daniel closed the door behind him. He had asked Rosa and Maya to meet him in the small study at the back of the house, a room Lexi seldom entered. Heavy curtains muted the afternoon light, creating a hush that made every breath audible. Rosa stood near the bookshelf with her hands clasped tight, knuckles pale. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, eyes darting to the hallway as if expecting Lexi to appear at any second. Maya clung to the edge of a leather armchair, her school shoes not quite touching the carpet. Daniel felt the distance between them like a wall built from years of silence. He started with a question spoken gently but firmly. "Has something been happening here that I do not know about?" The words hung in the air. Rosa's mouth opened, then closed again. Her throat moved as she swallowed hard. She looked at her daughter, then at the floor. Maya's small voice broke the stillness. "She calls me defective," she whispered. The sound barely reached Daniel, but it struck like a hammer. He crouched to her eye level without thinking, lowering himself from his commanding height to a position where he could see her trembling hands. Rosa raised a hand as if to stop her daughter from saying more, but Maya stepped forward, her chin quivering yet lifted. "She says Mama should be grateful for crumbs. She says we will be blamed if anything goes missing. She told Mama she can make the police come if we do not obey." Each phrase tumbled out like stones from a hidden sack. Daniel's stomach clenched. He reached out but did not touch her yet, afraid his sudden presence might startle her. "Who told you these things?" he asked, though he already knew. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Mrs. Hale. She says we are lucky she keeps us. She says Mama will lose her job and go to jail." Her voice cracked. "She says I am a burden." Rosa's shoulders sagged. "Please, Mr. Carter, I did not want trouble," she murmured. "I needed the job." I thought she would calm down. I tried to protect Maya. The words spilled like a confession, not of guilt, but of helplessness. Daniel felt heat rising to his face. This was not a hostile takeover or a boardroom crisis. This was his own house, his wife, his employee, and an 8-year-old child begging for safety. He extended his hand toward Maya. "You are not defective. You are a bright, strong girl. None of this is your fault." Maya stared at his hand but did not take it. "Can we really trust you?" she asked. The question pierced deeper than any accusation. He drew a steadying breath. "Yes, you can trust me. I did not know what was happening, but I promise you this will stop." His voice held the same weight he used when announcing decisive actions to shareholders, yet softer, aimed at a frightened child. Rosa's eyes glistened. "We have recordings," she whispered. "Phone calls. Notes she left. I kept them because I feared no one would believe me." Daniel nodded slowly. "Show me everything. From this moment forward, you are under my protection. No one will threaten you again." He felt the words anchor inside him, binding him to action. Maya wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand.
She said nobody would help us.
She said everyone likes her better. Not anymore, Daniel replied. Not after what I have heard. I will make sure of it. Silence stretched. Heavy but different now. Less fearful, more expectant. Rosa exhaled for the first time in minutes. Daniel realized his fists were clenched and forced them open. He rose slowly, placing a reassuring hand on Rosa's shoulder at last. Gather the evidence. Keep it safe. Do not let her know that we have spoken. His voice lowered to a command. I will handle the rest. The image of Maya's tear-streaked face burned into his mind as he left the study. He felt rage at Lexi, guilt at his own blindness, and a clarity sharper than any business decision he had ever made. Outside the door, the house appeared unchanged. The same polished floors, the same scent of polished wood, but Daniel now saw it as a set of walls built on secrets. This was not a home. It had been a prison for two people under his roof. As he walked down the hallway, Lexi's remark from the previous night echoed again. Children like her should know their place. It no longer sounded like a stray cruelty. It sounded like the surface of something much darker. Daniel stopped at the foot of the staircase and stared upward toward the rooms where Lexi moved with unchallenged authority. He did not speak, but a decision formed like iron inside him. This ends now. The heavy door of Daniel's private office closed with a muted click. Inside the walnut-paneled room, he stood for a moment, fists pressed to the edge of his desk, forcing his pulse to slow. The adrenaline that had erupted in the study settled into a cold, sharp focus. He was a man who built companies under pressure. He would not falter now. A blank notebook lay beside his laptop. Daniel opened it and began writing in bold, steady lines, dates, times, and every phrase Maya had spoken. Each entry hardened his resolve. He switched on the laptop, created a secure folder, and uploaded copies of house logs and staff schedules. He wanted a clear record before Lexi could sense anything had changed. His phone vibrated. Without hesitation, he scrolled to a familiar name. Selena, I need your help, he said the instant she answered. The civil rights lawyer's voice came calm but alert. Daniel, what is happening? There has been ongoing abuse in my home, he said, forcing each word to stay measured. Rosa and her daughter are victims. My wife is behind it. Threats, slurs, planned false charges. I have partial evidence. I want to protect them and stop her before she escalates. Selena Ortiz did not waste time with disbelief. You have called me because you know I will not look away, she replied. Start documenting everything. Do not confront her yet. She will escalate. Record everything. I have already begun, Daniel said. He glanced at the monitor where house security feeds flickered. I need your guidance on legal steps. I will bring an investigator I trust, Selena said. Keep Rosa and the child close but discreet. If your wife suspects exposure, she may act faster. Daniel's jaw tightened. Understood. I will handle the documentation. Bring your investigator tonight. While he spoke, a different scene unfolded 2 rooms away. Lexi Hale reclined on the velvet sofa in the living room, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice dropped into a low, hissing rhythm. He is starting to meddle, she said to her mother. I told you he was too soft. Now he is sniffing around. A pause, then a sharper tone. Do not worry. I will neutralize his interference. This is still my house. She swirled a crystal glass of white wine and smiled faintly, unaware of how much had already shifted against her. Yes, Mother, she said. I still have the recordings. Enough to ruin her if needed, and him if he crosses me. She laughed softly and ended the call. Back in the office, Daniel disconnected from Selena and leaned back in his chair, eyes closed for a moment. The echo of Lexi's voice from the previous night still pulsed in his mind. He opened his safe and withdrew a small box of security devices he had ordered months ago for business travel. Tiny intercom units, discreet cameras, and encrypted recorders. At the time he had thought of corporate espionage. Now they would serve a different purpose. He moved methodically through the house while Lexi busied herself in another wing. Under the cover of routine, he placed a miniature microphone in the hallway near the living room, another behind the decorative books on the console table, and a camera disguised as a digital clock in the kitchen. He did not rush. Every placement felt like a chess piece sliding into position. Upstairs, Rosa and Maya stayed in their room with the door closed. Daniel had told them to act as if nothing had changed. He pictured Maya clutching her sketchbook, Rosa whispering prayers under her breath. He would not fail them again. Selena's words echoed, She will escalate, record everything. He added a final safeguard, a hidden intercom linked directly to his office, so Rosa or Maya could alert him instantly without crossing the house. He tested the signal twice, satisfied when a faint buzz confirmed the connection. Lexi's heels clicked across the marble floor as she ended another phone call. Her reflection flashed in the hallway mirror. Perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect mask. She had no idea the walls themselves were beginning to listen. Daniel returned to his office, sat down, and stared at the live feeds appearing on his laptop. For the first time, he saw his own home as a battlefield, two sides drawn, evidence building like storm clouds. The man who had built an empire with strategy and patience now aimed those same skills inward. A clock on the mantel ticked past 7. Selena and her investigator would arrive soon. Daniel flexed his fingers over the keyboard and began labeling each audio file as it streamed in. Every second captured was a brick in the case he would build. In the silence of the office, he whispered to himself, "No more hiding." The words felt heavier than a contract, heavier than any speech he had ever given. Somewhere beyond the cameras, Lexi laughed into her phone again, planning her next move. She still believed she was untouchable. She did not yet know that the house she controlled had started to betray her. Daniel saved the files and locked the laptop. He checked the intercom one last time, then turned off the desk lamp. The battle lines had been drawn. Late afternoon light cast long stripes across the living room as Lexi paced with her phone pressed tight to her ear. Her voice had lost the velvet smoothness she used for guests and now carried a sharper, almost triumphant edge. "I told you, Mother," she hissed. "The Black Maid and her little girl are still here, but I have everything under control. Daniel is soft. He will believe whatever I tell him. If he pushes back, I have Plan B ready." She walked toward the picture window, unaware of the tiny microphone hidden behind the curtain. "Plan B is simple," she continued. "I smear her reputation, accuse her of theft, make sure no one hires her again. If Daniel files for divorce, I demand the highest alimony. I will not lose." In the office at the far end of the house, Daniel watched the feed stream into his laptop. Each word landed like a nail hammered into a board. His hand hovered over the keyboard before clicking a single button. The audio and video went live to his professional network, a closed group of executives, board members, and journalists who followed his posts for leadership insights. Within seconds, the feed gathered viewers. Comments began to appear, scrolling like sparks across the screen. "Is this real?" wrote one CEO. "Lexi Hale?" typed another. "She sits on our diversity board." "I am sick to my stomach," a venture capitalist added. Daniel's jaw tightened. He adjusted the angle of the hidden camera to capture Lexi's face more clearly as she spoke. She poured another glass of wine and laughed. "They think I am some saint with my charities," she said to her mother. "If only they knew. Rosa and Maya should be grateful I kept them this long. They are nothing without me." Comments erupted. "Resign her immediately," one board director demanded. "This is beyond unethical." Another message flashed, recording saved. "This will be public record." A soft knock came at Daniel's office door. Selena Ortiz stepped inside wearing a navy suit, her expression controlled but eyes fierce. Two private investigators followed, each carrying discreet equipment cases. "We heard enough on the way in," Selena said. "She is incriminating herself. Keep the stream running." Daniel nodded without looking away from the screen. "She does not know yet." Selena set a folder on the desk. "These are preliminary notices of investigation and protective orders. Once served, she cannot retaliate." She gestured to the investigators. "They will collect your copies of the recordings as chain of evidence." Down the hallway, Lexi's voice rose. "Mother, listen to me. Daniel suspects nothing. I still control everything. By tomorrow, this maid and her child will be gone. He will sign whatever papers I put in front of him." Her mother's muffled voice answered from the phone. Lexi's laugh followed, brittle and high. Daniel stood, closed the laptop, and picked up his tablet. The live stream continued in his hand, thousands now watching. He walked down the hallway with deliberate steps, Selena and the investigators behind him. His pulse stayed steady. The living room looked like a stage set when he entered. Lexi in designer silk, the city skyline glowing behind her. She turned at the sound of his footsteps, smile already forming. "Daniel, I was just—" "You have an audience," he said, holding up the tablet. For a heartbeat she did not understand. Then the sound from the tablet reached her ears, her own voice describing threats, smear campaigns, and alimony strategies. The color drained from her face. The wineglass tilted in her hand, spilling onto the carpet. Her phone slipped, clattering to the floor as her mother's voice shouted faintly from the speaker. "What is this?" Lexi gasped. "Your words," Daniel replied. "Your actions. Thousands of people are hearing you right now." Selena stepped forward, her tone professional but firm. "Alexandra Hale, you are hereby served notice of an official investigation regarding abuse, harassment, and attempted fraud. You are instructed not to contact or retaliate against Rosa Martinez or her daughter. All communications must go through legal counsel." Lexi's eyes darted between Daniel, Selena, and the investigators setting up equipment. "You cannot do this to me," she whispered, but her voice carried no power now. On the tablet, more comments scrolled. "This is disgusting. Our foundation will cut ties immediately. Board vote to remove her scheduled tonight." The social world she had built like a fortress was collapsing in real time. Daniel did not speak further. He simply lowered the tablet so she could see the endless stream of names and titles flashing across the screen. People she had courted, donors she had charmed, directors she had manipulated. Each name now stood in judgment. Selena handed a formal envelope to Lexi. "You will receive further instructions through your attorney," she said. "For now, step aside. We need to speak with Mr. Carter and the staff." Lexi backed toward the sofa, trembling. Her phone still emitted her mother's frantic voice, but she did not pick it up. She pressed a hand to her forehead as if trying to hold her world in place, but it was already sliding away. Daniel turned to Selena. "Secure Rosa and Maya," he said quietly. "They deserve to be safe while we finish this." Selena nodded, already texting her team. The investigators began photographing the room. The live stream continued, thousands still watching the downfall of a woman who had hidden her cruelty behind perfect charity events. The curtain had lifted. The world was seeing Lexi Hale without her mask, and nothing about her power felt solid anymore. The live stream cut off at last, but the fallout had only begun. Daniel's phone vibrated on the desk like a small engine, notification after notification flashing across the screen. Major charities issued terse statements. The Arts Foundation that had once hailed Lexi as its modern patron removed her name from the donors list. Clubs rescinded her memberships. Overnight invitations dissolved into apologies or silence. The carefully polished image of Lexi Hale, queen of taste and influence, was breaking apart in real time. In the quiet that followed, Daniel turned from his tablet and faced Rosa and Maya. He could feel the weight of what had happened pressing into his chest. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice low but steady. "I should have seen this sooner. You both were living in fear in my house, and I was not there to protect you. That ends now. Your job here is safe, Rosa. We will arrange legal support and therapy if you need it. No one will threaten you again." Rosa's hands trembled as she clutched the edge of the sofa. Relief washed over her face, but disbelief lingered. For 3 years, she had walked on eggshells, trying to protect her daughter and keep a roof over their heads. Now the man who owned this house, who owned $500 million in assets, was speaking to her as an ally. "Thank you, Mr. Hale," she whispered. "I do not know how to believe this yet, but thank you." Maya pressed herself closer to her mother, her eyes searching Daniel's for a sign that the promise was real. She had spoken the truth to a powerful man, risking Lexi's anger. Now she was watching to see if grown-ups kept their word. Daniel gave her a small nod. "You are safe, Maya. Both of you are safe." Across the room, Lexi slumped into an armchair like a puppet with its strings cut. Her phone was still on speaker, her mother's frantic voice calling her name from hundreds of miles away. She stared at the floor, the makeup on her cheek smudged, the diamond ring on her finger catching the light like a shard of glass. The walls of her carefully built world, designer gowns, charity luncheons, whispered influence, were collapsing inward, and for the first time she looked small inside them. Selena Ortiz stepped forward, cool and composed. She outlined the immediate steps: protective orders for Rosa and Maya, a full review of household finances, a forensic sweep of Lexi's communications. The two private investigators moved quietly around the room, photographing evidence and bagging items for chain of custody. Lexi did not even protest. Her hands hung limp over the chair's arms, as if she already knew the fight was lost. Daniel remained standing, his body still, his expression unreadable. For years he had assumed his home was a sanctuary while he built his empire out in the world. Now he understood how much harm could grow in the spaces he neglected. He glanced at Rosa and Maya again, 2 lives nearly crushed under his own roof, and felt a fierce resolve rise inside him. This would never happen here again. Lexi lifted her head at last. Her eyes darted to Daniel, to the strangers taking photographs, to the open door. She seemed to be taking in, piece by piece, the fact that her status was gone. Not just suspended, but stripped. The reign she had claimed over others through charm, money, and intimidation was truly over. She drew in a shuddering breath, as if realizing that no apology or performance could reverse the live stream or its consequences. In that charged silence, Rosa reached for Maya's hand and whispered a prayer under her breath. The household felt different already, lighter, open. Lexi's era had ended. Something new, still fragile but real, was beginning to take shape. The house was strangely quiet now. The investigators had gone. Selena was speaking softly with Rosa in the hall about paperwork and next steps. Sunlight spilled across the marble floor, turning the silence into something almost gentle. Maya sat on the edge of the sofa, swinging her legs a little. She glanced at Daniel, who stood by the window, looking out at the driveway, as if still listening to echoes of the confrontation. In a small, steady voice, she said, "My mom always tells me that good people do not hide forever. They show up when it matters." Daniel turned, caught by her words. She held his gaze, unafraid. "She also says bullies are only strong when no one is watching." Today I saw that was not true. When somebody finally looked, the bully got small. He felt the words land inside him like a quiet verdict. This 8-year-old, who had lived in a shadowed corner of his own house, was handing him a truth he would not forget. He knelt so they were eye to eye. "You are right, Maya, and I will keep watching. I will not let anyone hurt you again." Across the room, Lexi sat alone, scrolling through the headlines on her phone. Each swipe revealed another door closing. Fundraisers cancelled, sponsors withdrawing, public statements of condemnation. Her painted smile was gone. Her fingers trembled. She had built her power on secrecy and image, and both had collapsed by her own hand. The glow of the screen reflected on her face like a dim mirror. Maya reached for her mother's hand. "Mom says it does not matter how much money someone has or what color they are," she added softly. "What matters is their character." She looked back at Daniel. "Now I believe her even more." Daniel nodded, a silent vow forming behind his eyes. Outside, the sun rose a little higher. The house felt different, still large, but no longer a cage. And as Maya's words settled into the air, the story closed, not on ruin, but on a clear path toward something better, marked by courage, truth, and the choice to act.